Mr. Man Alone. You are on 3, 2, go. Hello, everybody. It's me, Man Alone. Welcome back to my XM radio show. Today, we're going to be talking about the hot topic of solo role-playing decision oracles. We're talking the yes-no oracles, the are the peas frozen oracles, and obviously, you know, I'm probably going to get some flack because I'm choosing a topic that's just so popular. It's on the top of everyone's list. Everyone's curious about it. I'm not going to be able to leave my house anymore without, you know, paparazzo tracking me down. But you know what? I'm not worried about that, and I'm not worried about anything. I'm going to report on this because you all deserve to know the truth. I'm not even making any claims here, okay? I'm just asking some questions about some of the assumptions that we make about these oracles. I just want to say, hey, is this the best way we can do it? Maybe the answer will be yes. But even though I'm merely asking questions, the SGS, the Solo Gaming Syndicate, is trying to shut me down. Okay, and I'm tired of being silent about this. You know, obviously the SGS is one of the more powerful gaming organizations in the world, and I need to talk about this. You know, they have been coming after me for a while now, and it's always has like very plausible deniability. You know, I'll have a mysterious package in my mailbox, and it will be some sort of oracle, and the only option, it's like 1, you know, shut down your YouTube channel. 2, shut down your stupid YouTube channel. 3, shut it down. You know, and I'm like, okay, I wonder who sent this. Obviously, it's the SGS, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to stifle innovation. They're trying to stifle curiosity, and I'm not going to allow that to happen anymore. I'm not going to be intimidated. So in all likelihood, there probably will be no more updates on my channel. This video will probably be censored and taken down. But I have to do this. I have to talk about it. And in fact, I got, you know, this voice recorder here, and it's very small, so I'm going to hide it. Well, best not to say where I'm going to hide it, but you know, when they find me with a bunch of D20s, you know, lodged in my heart, this will be on or in my person. And I gotta say, you know, in all seriousness, this little voice recorder, I got it off Amazon. It was like $30. I was very worried. It's one of those brands that like you've never heard that brand in your life. It's, you know, it's always something with an A and E in it. It's something like Waymoon, WAEMUUN, and you're like, oh boy. And then all of the reviews are like 5 stars, yes, 5 stars, good, 5 stars, okay. And you're like, oh boy, I don't know about this. But $30, I had a little gift card for my B-Day. Thank you all of you who gave birthday wishes. So I said, what the hell, I'll try it out. And I just wanted like a recorder to use for like, you know, writing and at work. Sometimes I'll get very busy and I have to remember things, you know, very boring stuff. I could play you a bit of it. I kind of want you to see the sound quality for it is really good, and I apologize. These are probably just gonna be like boring work memos, but check this out. Purchase multiple sandwiches. Oh shoot. Okay, that was just me testing the sound on it. Sorry. Again, purchase multiple sandwiches. Sorry. I was just testing the. Purchase even more sandwiches. Oh god. This time, purchase larger ones. Okay. That's just a bit. Oh jeez. Okay. Okay. Turn off. Okay. We got it. So yeah, actually, I think what that is I think it might have like AI, and so that really sounded like my voice, but clearly clearly it wasn't. So anyways, yeah, this one might actually be broken. So so moving on, what we're going to talk about is this decision oracle, this sort of mainstay. I never want to use that word, but it's sort of like a familiar piece of furniture in the solo role playing scene. There are a few different variations of it. There are definitely some optimizations of it, or attempted optimizations of it. But at its base, the solo decision-making oracle is usually going to be a D6 that the result of it is compared to a table. Usually it's a 1 means no, and additional no-ness, right? No and. And then a 2 would be like just plain old no. A 3 will be no, but with some exception. A 4 will be yes, but not as much as you thought. A 5 will be just yes. And usually a 6 will be yes and additional yesness. Okay. And again, there are different ways of doing that. So people like kind of place it into a D100 framework. Scarlet Heroes, Kevin Crawford has also this kind of a good example of an adjustment model for this, so that you could say like you have the yes no oracle here, a little higher. You have the yes no oracle, but if beforehand you determine the likelihood of the outcome, and if it's almost impossible, for instance, then most of the numbers on a D20 dice are going to result in a no. But if it's almost certain, then you're mostly going to get yes options. Okay, and so I think that makes pretty intuitive sense. And I guess the important question is, what more do we really have to do with that, right? Because just to be clear about what we're talking about here, we're not talking about skill checks with a decision oracle. Skill checks are going to involve other factors. Skill checks are going to, the outcome of skill checks are going to reflect attributes you have, gear. They might reflect skills that you have, right? And so those kind of things allow the infiltration of your character's aptitude into the outcome of something that they are attempting, or something that they have direct or indirect influence over. An oracle, at its base level, is a pretty pure randomization mechanism. It's pretty pure outcome generator, and it's shifted by approximated probability, right? So like in Kevin Crawford's table, you have these general shifts to shift the percentage of how often it says yes or no based on how, again, in just kind of your casing of the situation, your own intuitive sense of things, how difficult it would be. So an example of this would be you have a crumpled up piece of paper and there's a garbage can 3 feet away. Try to toss it in. That's 95% of the time you're going to get that in. But that's skill based, right? So skill can influence that. So let's think about something that's classically outside of your realm of control. The weather. You look out the window. Is it raining? Right? You want to know if it's raining in game. You roll a D20 or a D6 or whatever it is, and you'll get this outcome. However, if the clouds are gray and it's overcast, you'd say, well, it's more likely than usual that it's going to rain today. So let's shift the odds a little bit in our favor, right? And so the factors influencing the purity, the statistical purity of a decision oracle are usually outside of your control, because if they're to any significant degree within your control, it's a skill check. There's also some systems that attempt to put, a dollop of something extra oracle sauce, like onto the oracle. And so that might be something like Mythic GME, adding a chaos factor, which is going to create a more, in their explanation, Tana Pigeon would say this is like going to create, actually, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I assume they would say this creates a more robust karmic experience, right? You develop momentum and things tend to go like this, right? As over time, you can get in a rut, things can go well, or like you've been going well too long, you're due, et cetera, et cetera. And I know that there are many people have many different opinions about Mythic GME. I would say most people, it's very favorable. Those that do not favor it, I think you'll hear two things. The first is like it's a bit too overwhelming. And I think that's rarely does that happen when a person really sits down and takes the time to do it. But even just approaching it, it looks like a lot of tables and stuff like that. And then you'll have some people who will just say, a lot of the intuitive, easy use of the GME is based on being able to recall the fate chart, and they're not able to do it. They're always having to refer back to the paper fate chart. Anyways, I think there's something to be said there about the winds of fate and wanting to make sure in gameplay that you're not getting like repetitive outcomes. But what I think that the basic 1d6 roll is going to work in every game because it's just creating a spectrum of possibility. And again, we don't want necessarily to create a situation in which this decision roll can be too heavily influenced one way or another by the player, because the point of this is to not know the outcome. That is the point of it in solo play, is to provide this factor of unaccountable randomization so that you are confronted with scenarios you did not expect, did not create, were not prepared for, were not hoping for, etc. Because if it was just you creating scenario, outcome, you're not solo role playing. You're either just talking to yourself, journaling, or like you're muttering a la Beavis and Butthead, just being like, hey, it'd be pretty cool if we found like a sword. Yeah, that would be so cool, right? And maybe you do want to do that, but I think one of the reasons we solo role play is because we're looking for a little upgrade on just basic wouldn't it be cool type imaginings. All right. So the question is, why even mess with it, right? Why ask these questions of it? Why challenge the solo gamers syndicate? Well, the reason I think to start with of why I ask these questions, I must attribute to simple sport, which in my last video, I was describing the Year Zero engine, kind of going over, talking about some of its possibilities in solo gaming. And, just for fun, I thought, well, why don't I try adapting the Year Zero engine, just make a little kind of postcard level rules of converting it. The Year Zero engine in solo play can be very easily applied to skill checks, right? If you have not watched that video or you don't know what Year Zero engine is, I'll just do very, very brief explanation of it. It's usually a D6 dice pool that 6 count as successes. If you have at least 1 6, then the action you are attempting is successful. If you have more than 1 6, it's very successful. If you do not have any 6s, it is a fail. If you were to have a 6d6 dice pool, there is a approximately 18% chance that you will roll at least 1 6, as I did right here. If you are dissatisfied with your roll, either because you failed the roll and would like to succeed, or you succeeded but you would like to succeed at a higher degree, you can re-roll any of the dice that are not 6s And at that point, I think if you were just do a pure reroll of 6 dice, then your odds of rolling at least 1 6 would go up to, I think, 29% overall. And that scales based on how many 6s you're looking for and how many times you push. And pushing incurs some sort of risk or negative outcome, depending on the game. In Mutant Year Zero, if you push, you get a mutation point. In Coriolis, pushing gives the GM a darkness point. In other games, it could add stress, like an Alien, right? And so you start having these stress dice. I won't go into all the ins and outs of it. You could look at that video, and honestly, that video is more of a commentary than a deep dive. If you're really interested in the system, I recommend just searching out the Free League system reference document and reading the 41 pages about it yourself. I guess the last thing I'll say is that some of the systems have a 6 and 1 effect, right? Where the 6 is a success, but then you have these 1s that come up that are failures, right? And so this can play a role as well. But what I like about the system is the process of it is an uninterrupted, joyful, mechanical moment, right? Am I able to open this door that's rusted shut? Well, let's roll these dice, and as soon as I roll, I'm going to have a smile on my face, and my eyes are going to quickly scan, and immediately I saw that I succeeded. Yay, 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 right? And so each time we tweak this a little bit, when we start saying, well, I got 1 success, but actually this one came up as a fail, and so these cancel each other out, and now that's not complicated. That's not nearly complicated, right? I mean, I think anyone over 5 could probably work that out pretty easily, maybe 7. But what the problem is it takes away part of the main attraction of this system, which is the sort of Yahtzee cup joy of just rolling a crap load of dice and seeing if you won. Okay, so as I was attempting to adapt this, and this is not my strong suit, like statistical stuff and figuring out appropriate systems, it's really not my strong suit. But I thought it would just be an interesting thing, so I said, all right, there's no reason to not want to use this 1d6 oracle, just see the results, but suppose I were to make a yes-no oracle with a dice pool from the Year Zero engine, right? What I would probably say, first of all, is that the standard amount of dice for an oracle is going to be 5. Okay, I want oracle rolls to be varnished, not garnished. I want a pickle on the side. I want it untainted, right? I just want it to be a pure roll, but the only thing that I will use to adjust it, again, is this likelihood. So if something is like 50-50, could go either way, 5 dice, and then if you roll at least 1 6, it's a success. If you don't roll any successes, it's a failure, okay? We really don't want there to be a push dynamic here, because again, we're not trying to win anything, right? We're just seeing what is, right? So we're saying, is there a bird on top of that shopkeeper's head? Yes. Okay. So I wouldn't want to create this decision oracle in a way that's like, you know what? I really want it to be a really big bird. It's like, you already got your answer. You don't need to do that, right? And so 5 dice would be 50-50. If something was really unlikely, it would be 4. And if something is very likely, it'd be 6. And I think keep it simple, keep the simple range, more dice, more odds that you're going to roll 6. We'll save pushing and all that stuff for skill rolls. We can get a little bit more in the weeds on this, but we're getting a yes and a no. Okay. Now, for most of you, and for me, a yes and a no will not always do the trick, right? If we do a yes and no oracle too often, we're going to dead end ourselves. It's going to start feeling like a bad date. So you work in HR. Is that fun? Yes. Do you want to be there in 5 years? No. Where else would you like to be? Somewhere else. Oh, that's cool. Yes. Right. And and it's the same way. Well, you're soloing if you just limit yourself to yes or no, right? Is there guards in front of that gate? No. Is there guards behind the gate? No. Is there any security protecting the gate? Yes. Is the security a mounted turret? No. Is the security a rabid antelope? No. Right? And you just can kind of go through that, and you would rather have there be some element or some possibility for a twist or a mitigated roll or a sort of like yes, but with reservations kind of thing. And so my thought was, okay, so say you're rolling the standard 5d6 and we're asking the question, am I able to see inside the window of the barracks from here? Right? Let me roll. I got 1-6, yes. And now I go, well, maybe 1-6 is a yes, but. Okay, yes, but I'm not really able to see it. Well, the windows are foggy. And then if I were to get 2 6s, that's a yes. And if I were to get 3 6s, then that's yes and. But then I asked myself, what odds am I working with here, right? What are the odds here? And I actually think I was able to find the years. Let me bring that up again. Actually, I think I was smart enough to put it on my favorites. Nope. Year 0 odds. Okay, yeah, 17% chance. This is, I think, in a 6d6. No. This is one dice. Sorry. If you have one die, what are the chances it'll be a 6? 17%. 2 die, 31%. 3 die, 42% chance of success. Okay, and on and on. And it goes all the way up to, if you have 10 dice, that's going to be an 84% chance that you're going to get a success or a yes. All right. If you push the rolls, it goes all the way up to, if you have a 10 dice, you're going to 96% chance you're going to get at least 1-6 on a push. Most times they don't go that high, but very often it's a 66. If you roll 6 dice, you have a 67% chance of getting a hit. And if you push that, it's an 87% chance. All right. So my thought was, like, is that balanced enough? And do we want it to be balanced? Right. Now that's an interesting question, right? Because the sort of automatic mathematical, all things being equal answer to that is yes, you want there to be an equal chance that something is likely as it is unlikely. And then I was like, okay, well, if you do that with the year 0 engine, if you say in the dice pool, if 1 is a yes, but, and 2 is a yes, and 3 is a yes, and none is a no, then there are only degrees of yes, but there's only one no. And so I thought, what would that look like? How would that affect my play? Would that feel limited? And then I thought, okay, well, maybe what we'll do here is we'll put one of the, because again, I wanted to avoid having this counting situation, right? Where I go, well, I got 2 6s, but 1 that cancels it out. It's yes, but, right? And then again, there's this other problem here of like the toggle, the recognition mechanic in my head, in a game where you're looking for one type of outcome, but then there's one or two mechanics that have a different outcome. That is, in solo play, one of the things that is like most likely culprit to freeze you in your tracks and make you say, wait a minute, what am I trying to do here, right? This is a rollover 1d20 system, except when you're using, an attribute without a skill. And in that case, it's a roll under. And I think there is one thing like that in Dragon Main. I can't remember what it is right now, but it is sort of disorienting when that happens. And so my thought was, if you're playing most of the game using this, and you play year zero games by playing this 1-6 is yes, success, then it's a little weird to say, well, in this case, it's yes, but with reservations. But then I was like, well, actually, that's not too different from another popular Oracle system, which I will say is probably the second most popular solo Oracle system, is the Ironsworn Starforged, i.e. Blades in the Dark sort of thing, which is you can get a strong hit. A lot of time it'll do something, I'm not sure what it is. I think it's, what is it, 2d8s in Starforged that you compare to a d12 or something like that. But essentially the idea is that you'll roll a challenge dice, right? And so, this thing you have to get equal to or greater than this dice to succeed. And just so that we can, for demonstration purposes, we'll say that we rolled a 4. Then I roll my 2 attempt dice, and this one beat that, but this one didn't. So that means it's a 1 out of 2. It's a weak hit or a weak yes. Whereas if both of them met or exceeded it, it's a strong hit and an enthusiastic yes. If both of them lost, then it's a fail. And if both of them lose on doubles, it's a crit fail. And if both of them succeed on doubles, it's a crit, yes. And so adapted to this yes-no oracle, the essential difference beside the actual physical carrying out of that process is merely one degree of outcome possibility, right? In this case, there is crit fail, weak success, strong success, crit success. So instead of doing like 1d6 and just, comparing it to the table, you now have kind of like a 1d5. Okay. Now I would argue that this is more fun to, roll against this dice, especially because I think it's, different types of dice here. And, but essentially it's the same thing with a smaller range of outcome. And there's also, I think if you roll doubles and get that crit fail, there's some sort of twist. Okay, so this is the last component in these systems, is that there has to be, or it doesn't have to be, but there's often some element to say, actually, this time something completely unexpected happened. You're never going to believe it. Call your grandma. Call your grandma's grandma. Get a seance going, right? And so that's something, again, so I'm going back to the table here and I'm saying, well, how can I replicate that in the year zero system? So now let's look at my priorities here. I want to, use the fundamental model of the year zero dice pool system to replicate this decision oracle. I want to keep it simple. I want to keep it aimed or flowing in the correct direction of like 6 is success. I don't want to make it too different from like skill checks. I want there to be a consistent action throughout gameplay to re-rolling this dice pool. And I don't want to add anything that's going to cause there to be a moment of calculation, or at least I want to minimize that, right? And so what I come up with is, with a dice pool, what happens, following the rules I've set forth, is that I essentially have, whereas the 1d6 is 6 options, the strong hit, weak hit is 5. I think what we have here, given the priorities I have, and I might be wrong, let me know, is we have like a 1d4, okay? So if I get no 6s, then I fail. If I get 1 6, then I succeed. And if I get, I succeed with, weakly. If I get 2 6s, I succeed in a strong way. So maybe I have a 1d3, but I was thinking maybe you could just say, okay, if it's 3 or more, then you have like a crit success. So I say, well, okay, that's 4 or so. How can I make it to like just create a crit fail? without violating any of these principles. And I'm like, okay, what if you roll the dice and you don't get any 6s, but you have a 1? If you have at least one 1, then that's a crit fail. And then I said, well, maybe that's a good idea, but what are the odds on that? I really don't know. And again, I don't know. I not only don't know, I don't know how to know. I don't feel like knowing, and I'm not sure I care. All right. I need to say that before all of you start sending me algorithms. On top of that, I now have this new thing happening, which is I'm looking for a 1. All throughout play, I was just looking for a 6. Now I'm also looking for a 1. Okay, I said, well, what about this? What if we kept it as 6 only, but we have this die right here, and we'll call it, something. I think what's his name from White Box calls it like a sway dice. We can call it a fate die. We can call it something along those lines, right? The Dementor, as Michael Scott would say. And we'll say this die right here, this red one, is part of this dice pool. It only comes into play, okay, if there is a success. It only comes into play if I need it to. Let's just say that for now. So what happens? I roll. It acts as a normal die. It's a fail. If I fail and this die is a 1, then I have a crit fail. Alternatively, if I roll and that die I succeed, very nice, and it's a 6, then it's a crit success. And I could, that to me is pretty simple. I guess I'd have to say, get a dice pool, just make sure one of them is a different color in some way different, right? And most of the time it's going to be 2, 3, 4, or 5. And so it's really not going to matter. It's only going to matter if it's a 1 or a 6. Otherwise it acts just like any of the other dice. Okay. So just to illustrate this point a little bit more, and if you're just listening right now and not watching, this has to be the most boring episode of my show you've ever had. If you're listening and watching, it's bottom 5%. But I don't know anymore. I have to talk about what I'm obsessively preoccupied with. So yeah, so doesn't matter. That's a success, and there's 2. It's a strong hit. Whatever. Not bad. Okay. But once I finally got there, and I was like, not bad, stays with the spirit of things, not too difficult, right? I'm not asking someone to buy like some weird polyhedral dice. I'm not asking them to re-roll a bunch of times. There was one moment where I was trying to say, okay, well, if you get a fail or a success, you should take the die that aren't a success and then re-roll those. And if you get another, and then I'm thinking to myself, my God, imagine that. Imagine to just ask someone to gather up a dice pool every time they ask an oracle question is already pushing it, right? Is it cloudy today? I got to do 6 dice to find out if it's cloudy, right? Okay, here I go. All right, well, I got 2 6s. Now, let's see if this is a crit. Let me re-roll the extra ones. Okay, an additional 6. So yes, it's extremely cloudy today. That's just a bit much. And this is where I went back then to this. And I said, is this just the best one? Is this just the right one? Is this the reason why we just basically use some variation of this, a spectrum? But it was at that point that I asked a question that I'm not even being funny right now. I know I've been kind of silly about this, but I really have been asking this. Why is it gospel that there needs to be that many options on an oracle? Why is it assumed? Again, I'm not challenging this necessarily. I really am interested in this. I don't know whether to say from a gaming perspective, a mechanical perspective, a statistical perspective, or maybe just a philosophical perspective. a narrative perspective, is there a reason why the predominant model for this is yes and, yes, yes but, no but, no and no and? Okay. Your automatic response to that is, of course, that's good. That's the nature of, improvisation, right? You want to not settle for these simple answers, right? Yes or no questions are often going to be closed. You want there to be an option for things to veer a little bit to the left or right. You want there to be a lower risk option for something to completely surprise you. But from a gameplay perspective, what happens if you, let's not say you eliminate all of those options, but what happens if you eliminate some of them? Is there any, this is a silly question, I guess. Is there research on why, on if all of those are equally as interesting and equally as fruitful in generating narrative? Because I'll tell you what, yes and no probably isn't enough for me. Yes, but is able to generate some interesting things, but sometimes it feels a bit onerous. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, come on. Okay. Cause I'll say, do I have spinach in my teeth? It's like, yes, but it's organic spinach. And I'm going, come on, and of course, as the producer, actor, writer, and star of my own solo game, I can always just be like, F that, I'm just going to choose. I understand. But I tend, as I know some of you are the same, I tend to be a pretty rigid follower of ideal mechanics, right? I will maintain veto power when I feel that there's something narratively compelling or that it just doesn't make sense or whatever. But most of the time, I like there to be at least at the start of it, a strictness of the rules outcomes. That's what gives me structure and comfort. So yes is great. No is great. I know that honestly, this is what I started wondering. Of all the questions I ask a decision oracle when I'm solo playing, how many do I just want to know yes or no? Especially when I'm building out a scene. Is the river too deep to be crossed on foot? That might be something where I want to know a little bit of yes or no, or maybe, or yes, but then a question of like, is there, is this person, I don't, my brain is getting fried by talking about this, but if I were to say something like, is someone wearing a hat or something like that? There are times when I just want to know, okay, is the door locked? And then maybe I get an answer to that, and then I want to follow up. I want to get more information. Maybe I roll again or something. Is it daytime? There are certain moments when I roll on a 1 in 6 outcome oracle that I must admit before, you, God, and country, that I'm a little annoyed that I get an outcome on an oracle. And I know this flies in the face of everything I say about solo gaming and acceptance and all that stuff. But in fact, this is like, I do feel that this emerges from a place of acceptance of like, do I always have to have these possibilities for narrative detours? Because there are times, of course, go with the flow. Don't try to control things. But there are times when there's like momentum building towards something, and then I get an oracle outcome, and I'm just like, okay, so no, I'm not able to cross this river, but there's a dock nearby, and I got to go walk down there, and maybe I could talk to somebody working there. And sometimes that's great, right? But sometimes I feel like I get so many of these that I just lose sight of what I'm trying to do. And I'm it's like half my mind, I'm like half committed to what I'm saying right now. And so, if you feel differently, you can discuss that, but just know that I'm just kind of like playing around with this idea here. I'm not saying what I believe, because even as I've been giving examples, like, is this door locked? I'm thinking, yeah, maybe the door is locked, but a crowbar would get it open, or there's and so I'm obviously not convinced of anything, but I definitely do know that there are times when I find complex oracle responses for very simple questions to be tedious. And I'm not saying that this is the case of something where I think it should be an obvious yes. When something should be an obvious yes, I don't roll on an oracle. But I want there maybe to be an oracle sizing method where I can either choose yes and no, or I can choose like these different levels of yes and no. And perhaps that is where a year zero engine could be useful, right? It's to say, I want to ask a question. Is this gate locked? And I roll, and I just look for a 6. And if there's a 6, it's locked. And if not, it's not locked. Sorry, opposite. Only after I get that response, do I then make a decision if I want to zoom in a little bit more. Okay? Because sometimes I'm just checking stuff. Is that gate open? Okay, that gate's closed. Okay. How is the fence higher than 7 feet? Okay, that's lower than 7 feet. And I'm just trying to like coast through the setting. I'm trying to build out the setting. And then sometimes though, I really want to know more. And I say, so, okay, is the gate locked? Yes. Maybe I can use the remainder of this pool now to get some clarity. Is the gate rusted? Yes, definitely yes. Okay. Can it be opened through a level of blunt force applicable by like a human? Yes. Okay. So right there, I'm able to like zoom in a little bit more. And what I like about this is it gives me the option to just come off of it though. Like I could just roll it and just say, even if I rolled all 6s, that's pretty damn good. Even if I rolled all 6s, if I didn't want to go any further than that, I can just say, great, yes, gather them up and roll again. But if not, I can peel away any that aren't 6s and keep going, right? And getting less and less probability. Now, there are obviously problems with that. We're screwing around with probability. We're making the pool smaller. Maybe I just need to re-roll again and again to keep zooming in. I don't know. But I am interested. Put statistics aside for a second. Are there any of these 6 outcomes that are less useful than the others? And I have to be honest, I'm looking at you, no and maybe yes and as well. I find those two, which are admittedly, usually the extremes, but in a D6, that's pure. It's just the same odds as anything else. But for instance, in a Starforged Ironsworn type system, they're less likely. It feels a little bit like gilding the lily, or rubbing poop on a pig. I was trying to think of the opposite of like lipstick on a pig. Am I able to jump across this stream? No. And I do know that I sometimes feel like a little annoyed by that. I'm just being honest. I'm just saying that right now. You can feel however you want to feel about me. You can feel I'm a hypocrite, that I'm that I just need to be more accepting. Fine. I don't care. I'm not talking about, I'm just telling my honest thing is like sometimes, not all the time, sometimes I get that response and I go, great. But sometimes I'm like, come on, can we just get going here? And I do feel that like these oracles like this can also create these situations where you're just trying to do this and instead you're going like this, and suddenly you're talking to somebody about, buying a used horseshoe, and by the end of your session you're going, what the hell was I was trying to like defeat, the Dark Lord of the Nether world, and instead I spent most of my mission like trying to lure a donkey with garlic or something like that. And so this is where we have a point of distinguishing something here to be like, are we completely value neutral? Because this tends to be the notion in role playing writ large today, is like everything is good. And again, if you're to take what I say in some of my other more theoretical videos on face value, you'd say, well, yeah, wherever it's going in the right direction, it's leading you in the right direction. Yes. But what I'm saying, if there could be any sort of formula to say, are there any of those 6 options that are more or less narratively fecund, narratively robust, that lead to the development of better stories? And are there any that do not? And maybe, it's probably not going to be a clear answer for this. I wonder if there's any sort of corollary research, anything to suggest this. But I do know, a lot of this stuff is based on improvisation, and this whole sort of, if you've ever seen like the improv classes, yes and or whatever, you're not supposed to say but, is my understanding. You're not supposed to give exception. You're just supposed to keep building on it. And so I'm curious about the justifications for the absolutism of these and the acceptance of these. And I'm curious as well, obviously, I could just play and see how it goes, but that's only one data point is what I'm saying here. Do we actually have a reason to assume that those things are absolute goods? Or could this be optimized? And to cut to the chase, because I think this video has now been me saying the same 5 sentences 38 times. What happens if we have a couple of different yeses and just one no? Because the more that I think about this, if something's no, and I'm not talking about skills. If we're talking about skills, it's different. I may want to know other options with skills. If we're just talking about probability, if the answer is something is no, can we just make it no and move on, right? Does it always have to be a no but? Like, is there, in solo play, here's another question. Do I want there to be more yes than no? And I think I do. I think not much, but I think it should be like 55-45 yes. And obviously, depending on how you verbalize the questions and stuff like that, yes could mean something different. But I'm saying like affirmative. 55% affirmative or likely or advanced, right? And 45 no. I think that actually is what I prefer. I usually want things to happen, right? I usually, when I say that, like when I hear no and I get a little deflated, I don't think that's me being a stubborn gamer or a curmudgeon. I think that's me being a person. I don't like it when the answer to stuff is no. As a human, I don't like that. And especially when you have a really great idea and you throw it out to the oracle because you want to be, you want to be game, and the oracle just knows it out of existence. There is a little part of me that goes, yeah, I could override that, but I want to be game. I want to be game for this challenge, right? I want to be game for the randomness to it. But I'm just wondering if there was a way to measure fun points. Is there a way to change these outcomes so that we can maximize fun and discovery and advancement of narrative? And do we just accept the fact that it's okay for me to like have a session where I'm trying to stab a stake through a vampire and I end up milking a rat? You know, like, I don't know if I'm that agnostic about those kind of things. I don't know if I could commit to like being value neutral and like pluralistic about that and being so open-minded so as to say like, yes, anything that happens is the most fun thing that happens. I think some things are better than others. In group play, if you've ever had a session where your roles fail every time, it's not only annoying, at a certain point, it feels stupid. Like, it starts to feel stupid. Like, it takes me out of it. This happened to me 2 weeks ago. I failed every combat roll for the session. My character was supposed to be like a badass merc, and he's missing shots at 4 feet, like 17 times. That's really dumb. Like, that's really dumb. I don't think that that is reflective of anything realistic, and it certainly isn't like narratively interesting. Should we preference? Yes. And I think the answer to that is yes. Anyways, this video has been so half-baked, but I'm glad I got it out. I think I'll get some SHI double hockey scarecrow. But I think that I think it's good to just put this out there to see other people's impressions of it, because I just I think it's valuable for us to start asking like, what's next? You know, it occurs to me that there are so many amazing solo gaming ideas that I think get kind of like whipped out of existence sometimes. You know, Saint Solo, I'm going to call out, who's a friend of the page, kind of send me things that they're working on every once in a while, and they're such interesting mechanics, and they're so novel. And I always think to myself, I hope that these ideas don't ever get beat out of you, because I feel what happens a lot is you'll present a novel idea, and then the normative solo police will come in, the SGS, the Solo Gaming Syndicate, and they'll say, oh, there, that's cute. You need a correct statistical distribution of your oracle. Oh, no, that's not going to work. People don't want to do that. People will find that really annoying. And they keep chiseling down and sandpapering down these interesting ideas until, what do you have? You have some version of 4 Against Darkness. You have some version of Ironsworn. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those are 2 excellent games. But if we're to take a lesson from TV and movie, where this process that I'm describing has completed. I mean, this process isn't even it has completed. There's television shows with some notable exceptions. Television and movies, though, writ large, are junk. They're stinking, rotting junk. Anyone who is not doing extreme mental acrobatics to justify the choices being made on grounds other than, like creating sound narrative structure and having characters make grounded, realistic choices, it's all junk. And why? Because of Twitter. Twitter allows this rapid feedback loop where movies used to have to release a movie to find out it sucked. Now they do test audiences, they aggregate data from Twitter, they see what people want, And what do they have every time? What do they ship out? A perfectly polished, perfectly proportioned piece of poop, right? And it's completely unoffensive, and it's completely uninteresting, uninspired, incurious, takes no chances, posits extremely culturally and socially safe choices as, courageous stances when it's nothing more than calculations of profit margin and reaching different demographics and activate and all of this stuff. I think it's important that in any places we still are able to prevent that from happening, we should. And so it's occurring to me now that, what I've been talking about factually in this video is dice pools and mechanics and stuff like this. But what I'm really saying is, like, I want us to keep trying different things. I want there to be solo games that don't work. I want there to be solo games with wacky odds. Balance is not always good. Your bard is not supposed to be as strong as your barbarian. Balance is boring. And sometimes mistakes provoke future revelations. And I think one of the places that we're getting kind of stodgy in solo gaming is in this decision oracle, that we have simply accepted that this array of choices is somehow metaphysically indisputable. And I don't know if it is. I really mean when I say that. I'm not like being coy. I'm not being like, I don't know if it is. I'm saying, I don't know if it is. Have we tried preferencing affirmative outcomes? I don't know. So that's all I've got. It's just like 3 a.m. What am I doing with my life? It's Thursday. Or now it's not. Okay. Well, no matter what, whether you stayed with, you might have stopped listening a half an hour ago. I might not even be recording anything right now. I might be in a prison of my own mind, just muttering to myself in some sort of decommissioned asylum that is hidden from the outside world. Looks like. Okay, here's my outro.